Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Truth Wanted. I'm your host, ObjectivelyDan. This is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central, where we talk to people about what they believe and why. I also have a very special guest this week, and my very special guest this week is Joey Krieger. Joey, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and so Joey, you're kind of a special case, my friend. And here's the reason why. So originally we did have a different guest on for this week. And about a week ago they had to cancel, and that happens sometimes on the show. And so I'm trying to go through figuring out what to do. And Joey, I've known you for about 2 years now. You're a friend of mine. You actually called into the show a couple weeks ago as well, but right as I was figuring out the news, we need to find another guest, you sent me this video that you were in that got almost 500,000 views now, about 500,000 views on a channel called Jubilee. And it's called 6 Atheists versus 1 Secret Christian. So I posted this on social media before the show, and I hope you guys checked it out. If not, we're going to have a link to that in the description. I suggest you guys watch it if you're listening to this, the later recorded version of this first, before we go into this conversation. If you haven't seen it yet and you're watching this live, basically it's like a game show you were a part of, right?
Like an internet game show. I mean, so I have a friend who was on a previous one of their videos that sort of like set it up and just like, hey, they need atheists for a thing. And I did the interview and we did it, and it was a strange experience, as expected.
Yeah. So the idea of this game show was that there are 7 people in this Zoom call, and one of them is secretly a Christian narc, I guess.
And
exactly. And the rest are atheists, and everybody has to figure out who the Christian is, and you have to eliminate each other each round. Of course, you're one of the contestants, and I joked you're playing atheist cop.
I was the absolute gatekeeper. The thing was, it was like everyone said in the comments, if you don't read books, then you could still be an atheist. And so I'm here to tell you, if you haven't read every single book that I've read, you are not an atheist. I just needed to put that out there.
About the fact, like, they liked astrology and stuff, and you were playing hardball. You were like, what's an atheist doing believing in astrology? Like you were doing this whole thing. But anyway,
I wanted to just vote them all out and be the last one standing, honestly.
It's not just I got you on because I know you, and this was a fun thing seeing you on this video that got 500,000 views, but I think this represents a part of a change in our culture, really. And I was kind of interested in this conversation of like this video existing on the internet and having so many people watch it. That was not a thing like 20 years ago. People were super not casually talking about it like you were in this video. And this channel features a lot of different kind of religious perspectives on different things and stuff as well. But I also noticed too that the people who were represented as atheists, I gotta say I was impressed. Pretty diverse group of people. Not all just ex-Christians either. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, a lot of passive atheists, which I guess I have mixed feelings about. Like, it's cool. I knew a bunch of these people in high school. Like, their parents didn't raise them with any religion, and you ask them, and they're like, I don't know what. It's just a weird thing that some people do, and like I live my life. I do. I think the importance of grappling with the big existential important questions of what it means to live a good life and to be a human and to love, and that we're going to die and all that stuff, like, so overwhelmingly important that I can't help but wanting to like dig deeper into that. But I guess that is a step forward for society, that there are people that can just exist and not worry about that at all. Like, they don't need to label themselves in any way. They could just be.
Because first of all, I want to say too, they really undersold you, because you identified as a secular humanist and stuff, and they played that clip, but they didn't even talk about the fact you literally worked with Bart Campolo, like the secular humanist, right? Like, you know him, and you've done stuff with him, and like, you're a smart guy. I mean, we first met. We met at the Secular Student Alliance conference in 2018. And you've been involved with a lot of different groups on your campus and stuff, and you've been doing stuff since college as well. But like, you were definitely, out of the group that was on screen, you were definitely the more activist type, arguably out of what I saw, probably the most of the activist type. So I reckon I had solidarity with you there as far as like, what are these other people talking about? But
but and there's a lot of like treating it like a religion, and it's like, wait,
right?
We kind of do, and that's okay.
This is what I want to talk about. Like, is this a good thing that we have other people now who are way more comfortable calling themselves atheists, but don't like talk about it the same way that we do? Like they're not as interested in sort of the subjects. Like they were making fun of you a little bit because you were talking about books, right? You were saying like, oh, what books have you read? And it's like, oh, I didn't know I need to read a book to be an atheist. That was the line that came up, which is true. Like that's just a fact. But also, like, what does that mean when our country broadly becomes more secular, but doesn't have the same kind of critical positions that you or I might have? I'm wondering if this is a good thing, right? Like, what do you think?
I think I was thinking about this a lot after, because I did what everyone's not supposed to do and just read the comments and go, oh my gosh.
You shouldn't read the comments. They were saying, there was a funny line. I will say this. Everybody was saying that guy couldn't be atheist because he looks like Jesus. And I thought that was pretty funny, but yeah.
But this idea, I would honestly, my view would be decided by what views you hold. Like if you believe in astrology, if that makes you more likely, or if that creates like some slippery slope that is some way measurable, that makes you believe in things that like maybe vaccines aren't real, or like because of course I want to push back against beliefs that are illogical or irrational or just untrue or like weirdly disprovable or unverifiable. And I see like a connection between something like that and something harmless to society. Like I would argue astrology is, as much as it rubs me the wrong way. It's probably still harmless to society. But you could go up the levels of like, people who say, hey, I am talking to your dead relative, give me your money. That's a bit more harmful. It seems a bit more exploitative, and you go up the ladder of things that are bad to believe.
There's definitely like a hierarchy. I think you're right there. But it's almost like
what hill do we die on? And
what hill do we die on? Exactly, because I think they talked about this in the video. I don't know, but I've met atheists who believe in karma. Like I think that's a sentiment I have heard other atheists kind of express, and maybe
in what way?
In the sense that they genuinely believe the universe will like give back what is due, like that there is a cosmic process. Like I've talked to people like that, and they're not on the internet, they're not on the videos and the comment sections that like you and I are talking about, right? They're people who are living their lives, just doing whatever, don't think about this stuff as much. Well, I don't want to say don't think about this stuff, but don't have the kinds of conversations that you or I might have about this kind of stuff, right? So it's like, is that, what do we do with the belief that ostensibly really does like the most minimum amount of harm? Because like, what's the most amount of harm that a secular person believing in karma can do? Obviously, a more stratified religious systems and stuff. That's literally how they have like these caste systems and stuff in India, right? Like there's harm there, but like in the United States, in Austin, Texas, just a rando, someone like you or me, just having that karma belief. Is there a harm there? Like, yes, maybe, but like, what is that? How do we measure that really? And like,
in terms of measurability, I would say that's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
But in terms of like if you could imagine a situation like justice will happen to them later instead of like, no, justice now is important.
That's true. That's true, because there is that kind of heaven's fallacy, right? That it like that just world fallacy of, well, he's not getting what he deserves now, but somehow the universe will give it to him. It's like, no, you're a judge. You need to decide that punishment now, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. But I see that too. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. Hopefully, callers, you can tell us your opinions on this, folks. The lines are pretty open right now. We want to talk to you guys about this, but this is something I want to talk about. This idea of like, is it okay for us to grow? Because I've always thought this, Joey, even before I've been as involved as I have, I always thought that the way that people are going to become atheists, because atheism is growing in this country, non-belief, right, is growing. It's not going to be through shows like mine. Broadly speaking, it's not. It's not going to be through Truth Wanted. I don't even think it's going to be through either Atheist Experience or anything else like that. I think it's going to be just people just either deciding not to go to church with their parents and then just kind of just drifting away. It's just kind of be gradual. I don't think it's going to be, oh, you know what? I read Christopher Hitchens and now I have this really fine comb system of how I'm measuring what's real and what's not real. I don't think it's this skepticism, through critical thinking. It's going to be just a really passive process. I think that's just,
when you say that, I wish I could go back in time and go through my whole Catholic confirmation process just to really get a reading on what people believe. Because I wasn't like an atheist. I was like an agnostic, like, I'm not really sure, I'm open-minded. And there were other people there that were atheists. And but the vast majority of people were there to, I'm doing this so that grandma doesn't cry, this is
you
just got to do it, because pushing back when I still live at home with my parents, it's like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go through the motions.
There is a social ostracization that happens too, because typically if you are that person, you're probably going to be one of the only ones in the room, at least in my experience in Texas, right? And maybe you'll find secular people too, but they may not be willing to say that they're an atheist, or maybe they have an idea of what that word means that you or I wouldn't use. So I don't want people to passively accept my positions on things. I want people to have good reasons for being what they are. I don't think you should become an atheist because you think, just the idea of a Christian God is stupid. I don't know, something as simple as that. Ostensibly I would agree with you, I guess, but it's not the same thing as deconstructing Christianity as a theology, as a history, or even whatever. Now, granted, I don't do that for every single religion in the world, right?
Yeah.
But the same principles I use to look at stuff, I'm using across the board. And I don't know if people are really doing that, right?
Yeah. I mean, because the big thing that you and I would probably be, what we would be different, or how we would differentiate ourselves from the rest of those groups is what next, and why do what we do, specifically in terms of secular community. And that's so obvious to us why, but I mean, maybe that isn't, and maybe
it isn't.
I mean, I don't know how much your audience is familiar with the concept even of secular communities.
Well, hopefully the atheist community of Austin watchers enjoy the atheist community on some level, right? But I get what you're saying. Because I know at least one person who is broadly atheist, but believes in conspiracy stuff, like vaccine conspiracy stuff, right? I know people who have the ideas about just drugs in general that aren't scientifically found. There's these pockets of patchworks of different beliefs, and suddenly it's the thing that I have in common with this person really isn't something that we share in common at all, because I used to have this binary idea of belief of, you're either a Christian or an atheist or an agnostic, somewhere in between, and you're like this person, or you're going to be like this person. But really, people are just way more complicated, and they have all these different patches of different ideas. And I try to avoid not being in that bubble myself, even just here at the atheist community of Austin, trying to remember, we talk about the same stuff every week. Sometimes, we'll toot the same horn, but a lot of people don't think like us, or they approach their non-belief way, way differently than how we talk about it. So, yeah. I
mean, and there are plenty of people who consider themselves religious who the way they approach forming a worldview and what to believe on these variety of issues is like nearly identical to how we do it.
Right.
And
right.
And you're just like, well, how are you still holding on to that thing? Like, what? I mean,
yeah. So I feel this way too. It's like the progressive Christian that's like they're cool with.
I love them.
I love
some
progressive
of my best
Christians
friends are
as
progressive
well,
Christians,
but it doesn't make sense to me. And I'll say this: it's like if you came up to me and was like, "Yeah, I'm a progressive Scientologist. I know what Scientologists have said about like therapy in the past, but like I'm actually pro therapy. I think therapy is great." I'd be like, "That's great that you think therapy is awesome, but the foundations of everything else you believe, I still have like an issue with. Like, I don't want somebody to think that all people are good because the Bible says so. I want somebody to come to that conclusion based on really anything else. Like the foundations can really affect other things, even if ostensibly I might have something in common or agree with them on other things, right? So that's the problem. It is the foundations.
Yeah. I mean, and that's to get into the most people are good argument. That's like,
I don't believe that. But,
you don't?
Well, see, you might. It depends, because I know you are a secular humanist. That you're the kind that does believe in the inherent goodness of people. I don't know if I subscribe to that view anymore. I think I used to, but I don't know if everybody has the capacity to understand good like you and I would, and therefore, like, I don't know if they're capable of that inherent goodness. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess a more specific way of approaching that is most people are like do not want what they believe to be an actively bad thing to happen in the world.
Yeah.
But I read this book called Humankind by Rutger Bregman. And it just brought a bunch of like really interesting points. It's like, it's kind of like, it feels like it reads like a pop psychology book. But it's still very, very fun. And it does really make you like think. I mean, because you know these people in your life who vote in ways that you may, abhor, and
sure.
But like, they're not like sadists, right? As far as I know, they want what's best for the world, in their own way. And you could look at the systems that the manufacturing consent that has resulted in the way that they think the way they do. And but still know that like the fundamental desire is there. And I think that's like the important, and that's like, the whole importance of Jonathan Haidt, The Righteous Mind, and why
I think everybody has an idea of what's good, and people are acting in their own interests in what they think is good, and but their idea of what's good is so skewed from what I might think is good that it looks like they're doing evil, but really they think what's doing good. Like, is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah.
You want to do some nuance there. Oh, real quick, because we want to get to calls in just a second, but I want to know your take.
I mean, that if man, I don't even know where to go.
You have enough time. I don't know. I'll say my view on it is I like that statement I just gave. I agree in principle, but I also think, like, I don't know. I do think ethics are constructed by humans. Like, I don't think if humans existed, or if humans didn't, if a sentient life weren't here on Earth, right, then the concepts of good and evil wouldn't make any sense. Like, if none of us experience suffering or displeasure in any way, then we wouldn't have any idea of like a right or wrong action, because we wouldn't be taking things away from people or giving things to people to increase pleasure or whatever, I guess, right? So, like, there are people in this world who either have a skewed sense of that, in the sense that it's not in everybody's best interest, or they really only just care about themselves or whatever. Like, I think there's enough of that in the world to make me think, like, oh, this idea of everybody's inherently good, I don't know I don't know if I believe it as hard as I used
Yeah,
to. Like,
I think,
or maybe I'm conflating terms here. Maybe.
I think the reason I feel that it's important to internalize something like that is strategically in interpersonal conversations about difficult topics.
Yeah.
I think feeling that when approaching these things is the best way to convince people to think differently.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of vilification of the other side, and there's plenty to vilify. I'm not saying that, but in terms of once it comes to like an interpersonal, like you're sitting down over coffee with someone and you're trying to talk to them about, like, is it okay to be an atheist? Like all the hard conversations that we've had.
You have to ignore the shit that comes your way, right? I totally get that. Yeah, 100%. Like, you have to be contextually cordial, I would say, because I don't think you have to be cordial in every single context. But I think there's a lot of people that aren't and don't in ways that I think they could, where it's reasonable for them to be. If you're out in public and you don't want to be bothered, that's fine. But if you're going into a space where a conversation is warranted, then I think that I feel a duty to myself to be on my best behavior in these kinds of conversations, right? To not go full, talking points mode and just like, because I don't know. I know the kinds of people you've talked to too, Joey. It's like, like sometimes you feel like, oh, if only I could just school this person, but we know that doesn't work. Like there's enough evidence out there that shows it doesn't. We have to do it through other methods. We just have to do it through whether it's street epistemology or something like it. That's what I'm convinced of anyway. Yeah. But anyway, we went off on some tangents here, which I'm happy to talk to. You can tell Joey and I know each other a little bit, so a little bit different from a lot of the guests who, I've only know through kind of formal correspondence and stuff like that, which is nice. It's a little bit of a different vibe here on Truth Wanted, but we got some calls that I really want to get to. So do you want to get to some calls with here? All right, cool. So we're going to get to that. But right before we do that, I have to give thanks to our patron of the week. That's right, folks. Every single week, we have a patron that we like to give a shout out and give thanks to. And this week's patron is Jason. Thank you, Jason, for donating. And if you would like to support this show, you can do that on patreon.com/truthwanted. All the money to that goes towards supporting this show and just making it happen every single week. So thank you guys who support this show on Patreon. Really appreciate it. And now it's time to get to some calls.